Have you ever wondered why people get married? They're so excited before the wedding, they're very excited during the wedding, and a little after the wedding. A few months later, a few years later, the same couple are at the divorce court. They want to get a divorce. They don't want to see each other anymore. They hate each other. But this isn't how they started out. They were very much in love. They liked each other so much, they promised to spend the rest of their lives together. So why the divorce? The same thing too happens between friends. Friends are very close, very good friends. They eat together, they go everywhere together. After some time, this same set of people that are really close, lovely friends, all of a sudden there's a quarrel, and they become antagonistic towards each other, and even sometimes they stop talking to themselves. What about families? You see families, they are united, they are doing well. All of a sudden something just happens and the family is divided into different parts, with people forming cliques. The mother is against the child is against the uncle, all of those things going on in families. What is it that is causing all of this split? What is it that is causing all of this division? Why is it that people who start out well, many times they do not end up well all the way through the journey of life? The answer is simple. It is the problem called emotional sins. What are emotional sins? These are sins that are coming from your emotion. I'll give you an example. You see things like anger. You see things like bitterness. You see jealousy, envy, pride, offense. These are emotional sins. They are coming from your emotions. They are coming from what you feel and what you don't feel, what you perceive from your emotions. All of these sins are the reason people split. This is the reason why families split, why marriages split, why friendships split, why even family members split. It is because of emotional sins, the inability to control the urges that is coming from the emotion. Let's start with anger, for instance, as one of the emotional sins. You see, anger is a very deadly thing. First of all, it caused Moses to get into trouble with God multiple times. The first time he was upset in the Bible was when he, from a place of anger, killed an Egyptian that was fighting with an Israelite. You see that story in Exodus chapter 2. If you start from verse 11 all the way to verse 12 and 13, you'll find the story there. Then again, we see Moses angry again. Exodus 32 verse 19, the Bible says, he had gone up to the mountain from verse 1, and then God had given him the tablets of stone written with the finger of God, the laws that the children of Israel were supposed to abide by. But while Moses was up in the mountain, the children of Israel, led by Aaron, began to worship a golden calf. And the Bible says that God told him, go down and see what your people are doing. In verse 19, the Bible says, when they came near the camp, they there, meaning Moses and Joshua, when they came near the camp, Moses saw the calf and the dancing, and he burned with anger. He threw the stone tablets to the ground, smashing them at the foot of the mountain. And he took the calf and made it and burned it and ground it into powder and threw it into the water and forced the people to drink. And the story goes on and on about how he was very upset with the people. He broke the tables of stone and he had to go all the way back to the mountain. And this time God dictated to him, and then Moses now had to write it down on the tablets of stone by himself. So you see him being angry again. And then another time again, the same Moses, who was a friend of God, very close to God, the one that God was speaking to, the one that performed these mighty miracles in Egypt, the one that divided the Red Sea, we see him again, this time very upset again. Numbers chapter 20 verse 11, God had told him to speak to the rock. But, he was upset with the people because they were complaining about water. And the Bible tells us that Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with his staff. And the great amount of water rushed out, and the community and the livestock, they drank. But after he had done that, God was angry with him, and God told him, you will see the promised land with your eyes, but you're never going to enter into the promised land. All of this is because of anger that Moses failed to control. Anger that Moses failed to bring under control early in his life, and he grew with it, and it eventually made him lose access to the promised land. The Bible tells us concerning anger in Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 9. It says, control your temper, for anger labels you as a fool. So when you are angry, the Bible says you are labeled as a fool. Do you know why? It is because when you are angry, you are going to make decisions coming from a place of anger. You will not make rational decisions. And when people see the kind of decisions you're making, they'll say, you're foolish because you're not making very wise decisions. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 14 verse 17, it says, short-tempered people do foolish things and the schemers are hated. A short-tempered person is a person who gets angry really quickly and for very little. He gets angry. The Bible says that he does foolish things. So you will take decision from a place of anger, and any decision you take when you are angry is usually not a wise decision. Do you know that many people have destroyed themselves because they've taken decisions from a place of anger? Something that if they had just calmed down, brought their anger under control, they would have been able to deal with it. So this thing that happens when people get angry, what it does is that it opens the door for Satan to come in and harass a person's life. You know, the devil does not have the right or the power to harass a Christian, either with sickness, disease, satanic manipulation, whatever it is the enemy wants to do. The Bible says to us in 1 John 5:18, he says that we do not continue to sin, right? Because God's Son holds us securely and the enemy cannot touch you as a Christian. So why is it that the enemy is touching Christians? The answer is simple. They open the door through some of these emotional sins, and the chief of them is called anger. In fact, the Bible tells us in Ephesians chapter 4 verse 26 to 27, it says, don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. So you open the door for demonic activity in your life through anger. What is anger? Anger is an emotional outburst of words or actions when a person is not happy because of something somebody else said or did to him or somebody close to him. So that emotional outburst is called anger, and it's a very dangerous thing. It is one of the most dangerous emotional sins. If you want to keep the devil far from you, far from your house, far from anything that concerns you, then you must understand how to control your anger.